Can you believe it? It's that time of year again. New Kamen Rider. And this one's going to be relatively interesting to see how it plays out. So, Kamen Rider Gabu is officially coming to an end within the next couple months, which doesn't feel real because I remember making a video around this time last year talking about the new rider. And yeah, now if you remember in that video, I stated, oh yeah, if I like Gabu, I'll be making videos on it. I didn't like it. That's why I didn't make videos on it. But yeah, I couldn't get past the first 6 episodes. I don't even remember at this point how many episodes I've seen. I just couldn't get into it. I think some of the suit designs are cool, but it's not a show for me, unfortunately. But that conversation passed. We're looking towards the future now. So, this is going to be really interesting. So, I'm not sure how to say the name yet because, we only know that this show exists and that's what's coming next. We don't know anything else. We don't know who even the main actor is or what the general story is going to be. We've just seen some stuff. So, yeah. And this may or may not contain stuff you don't want to see if you're trying to go into the show with as fresh eyes as possible. With that being said, I'm going to call him Kamen Rider Z for short because, again, don't know how to pronounce his name. So this was the first ever, real poster we saw. And it has Japanese text, the logo, and it has a date for August of this year, which is next month. Oh my god. Wait, right? I'm looking through my calendar. No, I'm sorry. I got the date wrong. Ignore me, I don't know how to read a calendar. But, yeah. And there's already some interesting things about this suit that I'll get to later. But the second poster leads me into a discussion topic that's actually really crazy. This poster replaces the Japanese text with the words mission start, which is what I assume it says on here. I don't know. I'm not going to translate it because I use Google Translate, and that's not always the most accurate thing. It is missing the date, but that's a minor thing. But why did they release a poster with English text on it? That's because this show is actually going to be airing in America, as well as 30 other countries. So, outside of Japan, it's airing in, obviously North America, so that includes Canada and the United States where I live. It's going to be airing in South Korea. I'm trying to remember where else the post said off the top of my head. Taiwan and other places like that. And then, you might think, that's only 4 countries plus Japan. It says it's airing in this one specific region of Africa that's host to 20 different countries. So this is going to be one of, if not the most widely available Kamen Rider series ever. Not only in English, but in several other languages, which is really cool. As of right now, we don't know where it's airing. If I had to assume, it'd be some form of YouTube or Shout Factory, because those two have been the main ways that Toei is pushing Kamen Rider out here in North America. And plus, it'd have to be some form of global thing. Maybe Amazon Prime. Who knows? But yeah, I'm really excited to see where this show airs, how the subs will turn out, if there will be a dub. We don't know this stuff yet, obviously. This is still very early on. But then we get to the suit, and this is also kind of crazy. For the first time in Kamen Rider history, we have a rider who has a belt, but the belt's not around his waist. As you can see in this photo, it is worn crossbody style, which is really cool and, just unexpected, and I like it. I'm a fan of the way the belt is. The physical suit, it's grown on me a little bit, but I'm not a big fan of it. I kind of would have wished that Toei decided to push a Kamen Rider series in America that has suits I actually like. But who knows? It could take some time for me to eventually like this suit. I wasn't crazy about Gabu or the Boon Boongers, but those are some of my favorite suits now. So yeah, we'll have to see. And then this is a belt. And it's really interesting because, again, crossbody style. We've never really seen this before. We have seen riders that, for example, in the Fi's 20th movie, one of the riders, activate the belt whilst it's slung over his shoulder and then, clipped around his waist and transformed. But this is the first time where the belt is going to stay away from the waist. Yeah. So to transform, Kamen Rider Z will be using these little orb thingies, which is actually a really unique little gimmick item. We haven't quite had like an orb yet. They look like maybe base. They look like about the size of a baseball or tennis ball, maybe a really small apple. Until we get in hand, we won't know the actual size. But a couple minutes ago, Bandai just released like a little teaser trailer that shows how the belt works. So Z will be like putting the orb into the belt, pushing down that little lever right there, and then spinning the orb, which is, generic, whatever. But the way I thought it was going to work was that like you put the orb in, you push down the little lever, and the orb spins on itself, kind of like the old Kamen Rider belt prior to Ryuki, that like you just pushed a button and a little fan with lights would spin. This is a clip from that promotional video, so we kind of get to see like how this rider will be dressing for this season, which is just generic clothes, nothing. We can't really tell much about the show just based off the way the character dresses, so yeah. Then, on top of that, his form changes. We're going back to early Heisei here, so if you don't know, way back in the day, before we got full total form changes, like what we would see with, like Ryuki Survive, or much more recently, all the Kamen Rider Gabu forms, like Blizzard Torbay, and Caking, and Popping Gummy, all those, most Kamen Riders just swap their colors. For example, Kamen Rider Stronger, the first ever rider with like multiple forms, he just like changed from like red and black to like silver, red, and black. Here, which I Kamen Rider Kuga, we're getting four main colors. Obviously, we're getting like this green and black one as his base form. Then we're getting like this blue and like light green as his like second form, which will probably be the early campaign bonus item that's coming out in a couple months. Then you got this green form and this like purplish form. So yeah, nothing to note here. That's the end of all the photos I have. But yeah, quite interesting. The trailers you can find online, they mostly use a lot of English, which is interesting because, I keep saying the word interesting a lot, but that's the only way to describe this because we've never quite had this. It's going to be airing either like a couple days later or simulcast, which means it'll come out in Japan and all of its regions at the same time. If it is simulcasted, I probably will miss the live premieres because I live in North America and Japan has like its daylight cycle flipped from us. What happens when you're on opposite sides of the world. But yeah, I will definitely be giving at least episode 1 a watch and see how it goes. Otherwise, I'm incredibly intrigued. Again, I'm not crazy about the suit. It could just be like we haven't had that much to see it yet, I'm interested to see what the bike looks like because like it's a Kamen Rider bike. They're always a little interesting. With this going back to kind of like Kamen Rider Ichigo, I wonder if his bike will be more like Ichigo or if it'll be a little closer to what we're seeing more nowadays in terms of Kamen Rider bikes. But yeah, I am intrigued to say the least, and I want to know what your thoughts are. Do you think the suit could use something around the waist? Because that is something I've heard quite a bit about. People were like, oh, he should have like a holder for the orbs around his waist if we're not going to make him wear the transformation belt around his waist. Which it's a fair criticism, but I almost like the idea of like a blank waist. It's just something we so rarely see as a Kamen Rider without the belt around their waist. For the first time, when we're getting a rider with like a crossbody belt, I'd rather not be dragged down by the fact he has holders on his waist. So yeah, if it does get dubbed, will you be watching it in the sub or the dubbed version? I will likely give both a shot and then just stick to one from there on to see how it works out. Do you think the toys will be sold here? Because that's a question that we haven't gotten any sort of clue or hint towards. I don't think we will, just because that would require them to like either do a lot of box art changing or just have this random toy with a bunch of Japanese language on it. Or I guess they could do like Hasbro does with like their Transformers or Marvel Legends action figures, where they just put multiple languages on the box. Who knows? And let me know what you think of the suit, because again, some like it, some don't. I'm in the middle. But that being said, I will make a follow-up to this when we get the official press reveal talking about the actors, the story, and where the show will be airing. But until then, I will see you all next time.